Every morning in China, thousands of unemployed young people pay for the illusion of a career, shelling out 30 to 50 yuan just to sit at fake office desks, answer to pretend managers, and fabricate work reports. It sounds absurd, but with youth unemployment soaring, possibly as high as 46.5%, and family shame closing in, an entire economy has emerged to sell dignity for a daily fee. But how did a viral comedy sketch spark a business built on deception? And why are so many willing to buy in? The answer reveals what work, survival, and hope now cost in a nation where the future of employment is slipping away. 30 yuan. That's the minimum price of pretending to belong. In cities like Shenzhen, Hangzhou, and Chengdu, the going rate for a day at a fake office sits between 30 and 50 yuan, about 4 to 7 United States dollars. For that sum, an unemployed graduate or laid-off worker receives a desk, steady Wi-Fi, and the right to join a group of strangers all performing the same ritual, showing up at 9 in the morning, keeping their heads down, and typing away until evening. Coffee and snacks are sometimes included, but the real product is the appearance of purpose. The daily fee is not insignificant. For many, 30 yuan is the price of a decent meal, a week's worth of subway rides, or a third of the average daily wage for entry-level service work. Over the course of a month, the cost of maintaining this illusion can reach 900 to 1,500 yuan, more than some earn hustling part-time gigs or selling goods online. Yet the demand keeps rising, especially among those who feel the pressure to prove they are not drifting. What is being bought is not just a seat or a signal bar. It is a shield against questions from parents, a prop for social media, a buffer from the shame of idleness. In a country where joblessness can feel like personal failure, the act of paying to simulate a workday becomes its own survival strategy. The money exchanged each morning is a quiet transaction for dignity, traded in small bills and silent glances across rows of borrowed laptops. The economics of this new ritual are stark. Every yuan spent is a wager that the cost of pretending is less than the cost of explaining, that a staged routine is better than none at all. The daily fee draws a line between those who can afford to keep up appearances and those forced to let go. For China's unemployed, the price of hope is now measured in office hours and in the silent arithmetic of what can be sacrificed for one more day of looking busy. In late 2024, a joke about fake office life caught fire across Chinese social media. What began as a comedy sketch mocking the lengths to which jobless youth might go to fool their families quickly became a business model. Within months, small venues in cities like Chengdu, Hangzhou, and Shenzhen were offering the real thing, a simulated workplace for the unemployed. Operators rented modest office spaces, furnished them with rows of desks, and set up Wi-Fi strong enough to handle hours of streaming or job hunting. The doors opened early, with a code of conduct posted by the entrance. Arrive by 9, no smoking, no sleeping at your desk. Some even banned romantic entanglements between colleagues. For a daily fee, users gained access to a seat, snacks, and the illusion of a normal workday. The mechanics were simple but effective. Attendees clocked in alongside strangers, exchanged small talk in the break room, and typed away at borrowed laptops. Some spaces offered more elaborate touches, mock interviews, staged supervisor visits, even group chats to mimic office banter. For those who needed evidence, staff could help arrange photos, posing with a cup of coffee, a stack of reports, or a fake company badge. These images, shared on social media or sent to parents, became proof of a busy professional life. The founder of one such venue described the business in blunt terms. What I'm selling isn't a workstation, but the dignity of not being a useless person. The service menu read less like a list of amenities and more like a catalog of borrowed legitimacy, each item designed to help users maintain the story that they were still in the game. By early 2025, the trend had spread to at least a dozen cities. Social media platforms like Xiaohongshu and Douyin buzzed with tips on the best locations, reviews of the coffee, and snapshots of staged office routines. For the operators, it was a chance to meet a growing demand. For their clients, it was a lifeline, a way to push back against the shame of joblessness, if only for the length of a simulated workday. Shuizhou arrives at the Dongguan office just before 9 each morning. He lingers in the entryway, clutching a thermos before settling at the same corner desk. At 30 years old, Shui once ran his own food business. Now, after the collapse of his shop, he pays 30 yuan a day to sit among strangers and mimic the rhythm of work. The hours stretch from dawn until almost midnight. He chats about football in the break room, sips tea during slow afternoons, and stays late after the others have gone home. Every few days, he sends a carefully staged photo to his parents, always with a laptop open, always a mug in hand. He says quietly that his parents think he is working at a startup. It is easier this way. Across the city, Xiaowen Tang keeps her own secret. At 23, she finished university last year, but her degree is still out of reach. The school requires proof of an internship before releasing her diploma. Xiaowen rents a desk for a full month and fills her phone with snapshots, posing with spreadsheets and pretending to take calls. She forwards these to her university and to her family, who believe she has landed a coveted internship. In reality, she spends her days writing online fiction, her only source of income. She jokes that if you are going to fake it, just fake it to the end, but her eyes flicker with fatigue. Each staged routine buys her more time, a few more weeks of hope. For Cha Xiao, the deception has lasted nearly 2 years. She tells her parents she works at a state-owned enterprise, a story supported by the occasional delivery of branded holiday gifts she purchases herself. Her real days unfold in rented offices, surrounded by others who are also pretending. The morning commute, the lunch break, the steady hum of keyboards, these are the details she shares on family group chats. At 29, Cha measures her success not by promotions or paychecks, but by how convincingly she can maintain the illusion. She says her parents would never understand. She just wants them to be proud. Inside these rooms, each routine is a private negotiation with shame and hope. Every staged meeting and borrowed desk is a small act of defiance against the fear of falling behind. For Shui, Xiaowen, and Cha, the cost of pretending is high, but the cost of being found out is higher. Official numbers tell only part of the story. In August 2025, China's National Bureau of Statistics reported youth unemployment at 18.9% for those aged 16 to 24, 3 times higher than the national average of 5.1%. That figure excludes students and does not count anyone who has given up searching for work entirely. The government's own data shows the scale. In mid-2023, when the rate hit 21.3%, publication of youth unemployment statistics was suspended for 3 months. The blackout drew widespread attention, but it did not stop the reality on the ground. Independent economists believe the real numbers are far higher. Peking University's Zheng Dandan estimated that if discouraged job seekers were included, nearly 46.5% of urban youth were out of work or not actively seeking employment by late 2023. That translates to roughly 20 million young people in China's cities who are neither studying nor earning a paycheck. For many, the line between unemployment and invisibility is paper thin. The pressure is mounting as new graduates flood the market. In 2025, a record 12.22 million students completed university, up from previous years, and set to rise again in 2026. With each graduation season, competition for jobs intensifies. In the scramble for stable positions, state-owned enterprises and civil service roles are overwhelmed. China National Nuclear Corporation, for example, received 1.2 million applications for just 1,730 openings, making the odds of landing a spot less than 1 in 700. These numbers reflect more than a temporary downturn. They speak to a system struggling to absorb the largest, best-educated generation in Chinese history. For young people facing the prospect of months or years without formal work, the demand for ways to maintain dignity and routine, no matter how artificial, becomes easy to understand. The data reveals a crisis measured not just in percentages, but in millions of stalled lives. The jobs vanished in waves, one sector after another. In the tech industry, giants like Alibaba, Tencent, and ByteDance cut their workforces by more than 200,000 positions between 2021 and 2023. For many, the layoffs came without warning. One day, a company town hall, the next, an email with severance terms, and a locked login screen. Even the most ambitious graduates, those who once dreamed of coding for China's digital titans, found themselves squeezed out by restructuring and automation. Education, long seen as a stable path, offered no refuge. The government policy called double reduction in 2021 banned for-profit tutoring in core subjects, wiping out over 400,000 jobs almost overnight. Teachers, administrators, and recent graduates who had flocked to the booming after-school industry were left scrambling for alternatives, their former classrooms shuttered and their salaries gone. Manufacturing, once the backbone of China's economic miracle, shed nearly 3.5 million jobs from 2019 to 2023. Automation replaced line workers in electronics, textiles, and assembly plants. At Changying Precision in Dongguan, 600 jobs were replaced by 60 robot arms and a handful of technicians. Foxconn, the electronics giant, slashed its payroll by hundreds of thousands as robots took over repetitive tasks. The real estate sector unraveled as Evergrande's collapse rippled through construction and supply chains. Millions of workers, engineers, sales staff, and contractors found their projects frozen and their futures uncertain. In the hunt for stability, state-owned enterprises became the last hope. But competition reached a fever pitch. China National Nuclear Corporation received 1.2 million applications for just 1,730 positions, a ratio of nearly 700 to 1. The odds of finding a foothold in the new economy have never been steeper. Pressure comes from every direction, but the heaviest weight is often invisible. In China, the idea of face, the need to protect one's reputation and family honor, makes joblessness more than an economic setback. It is a source of deep shame, an unspoken failure that can ripple through generations. There is an old saying, men can't live without face, trees can't live without bark. For many families, a child without a job is a wound that cannot be hidden. The government's message offers little comfort. President Xi Jinping has urged young people to eat bitterness, to accept hardship, and lower their expectations. He warns that no one should think themselves above manual labor, even as white-collar jobs dwindle. But for graduates who spent years in classrooms, the advice to endure or settle for less feels hollow. The jobs they trained for have vanished. The shame of returning home empty-handed is sometimes too much to bear. Inside the fake offices, the psychological toll is clear. Ryan, 25, spent a year and a half unemployed. He gained 20 pounds, developed fatty liver disease, and saw his confidence erode. What finally helped was the structure of a pretend office. He describes a relief in the daily routine, surrounded by others who understand the same quiet struggle. Deep down, we all feel a shame for resting, he says. Not working equals wrong. A journalist who visited one of these offices in Beijing noticed the same thing. The people inside were not pretending to be busy. They were working hard to reinvent themselves, clinging to any sense of purpose. For many, the simulation is not about fooling others, but about holding on to dignity in a world where unemployment feels like a personal flaw. China's leaders have doubled down on automation, pouring billions into artificial intelligence, or AI, while unemployment soars. The government's latest AI initiative calls for sweeping adoption across every major sector. Foxconn, once the world's largest private employer, has replaced hundreds of thousands of factory jobs with robots over the past decade. At Changying Precision in Dongguan, 590 assembly workers were replaced by just 60 robotic arms. Even tech giants are not immune, and Alibaba's workforce shrank from over 250,000 employees in 2022 to 124,000 in 2025, as AI tools took over routine tasks. Researchers warn the disruption is only beginning. Peking University estimates that more than half of all jobs in China could be replaced by automation. Chen Deli, a leading AI scientist, cautions that the so-called honeymoon phase will end soon, and mass job losses could accelerate in the next decade. After Japan's economic bubble burst in 1989, laid-off salarymen began dressing in suits and spending their days in libraries, hiding unemployment from families for months or even years. The film Tokyo Sonata captured this quiet ritual. While new terms, frieders, neets, and hikikomori entered the national vocabulary to describe those drifting at the edges of work. In South Korea, more than 129,000 young people in Seoul now live in self-imposed seclusion, and over 218,000 people aged 15 to 29 have been out of work for at least 3 years. The World Economic Forum warns of a global crisis in occupational identity as automation threatens traditional jobs and the role of work in shaping who we are. An outside observer once noted that these systems of pretense, whether in Tokyo, Seoul, or Shanghai, use small lies to preserve respectability, but also offer a fragile space for people to search for meaning when stable employment disappears. Today, millions in China's cities rehearse the rituals of employment without the reality, and they face a future where AI may erase even the illusion. As automation accelerates and cultural shame deepens, the question shifts: when work disappears, what remains of dignity and identity? This is not just China's crisis. The struggle to find meaning beyond a paycheck is coming for us all. Share your take in the comments below.